In terms of how you guys have been playing in recent weeks, it seems like every year you found a way to get your teams playing their best soccer at the end of the season. What have you been able to do to consistently get the guys in that form at this time of year?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a big part of it is probably the rhythm that I developed coaching in college for so many years. And obviously, the format in college was you played for the NCAA tournament, and the regular season was preparation for that. The rhythm that I learned through my mentors and the rhythm that I executed and developed as a head coach myself was always take a few lumps through the year and play the best teams you can, and then get them peaking at the end of the year going into the NCAA tournament. Obviously, you have to do well enough to get in, and you want to get the highest seed possible. So there's a lot of parallels, actually. Biggest difference is a lot less games, but I think that's probably the main reason. I would argue that that's the way you want to shape it up in any season at any level, especially when, again, there's a tournament that decides the champion. I think the other thing is I try not to grind guys out as well too much in that middle part of the season. I'm really mindful of keeping them fresh and energized physically and mentally. And early in the year, I'm big on making sure they know their role, and perhaps sometimes that means that in the early stages of the team and the development of the team and the structure that not quite as free as they need to be like they are at the end of the year.
In terms of your preparation this week, how does it maybe change how you're going about it, given that you're not going to potentially know your opponent till Thursday night?
I think the good thing is we always prepare early in the week, mostly for ourselves and on a whole, because of the way we play, which is in a way where we're dictating the game and deciding it with a ball. It becomes a faceless team in a lot of ways. A lot of the things that we look to do in most games are very similar. And we start the week always with us, correcting past game things and then focusing on our daily maintenance and habits in our style of play. So really it doesn't change at all what we do, because 2 days out, 3 days out, that's when we start to really factor in the opponent a bit more in our game plan and all the things that relate to that in terms of shape and attacking rotations and set pieces. So we'll wait and sit idle. The guys know the scenarios. We know after tonight, if San Jose wins, we'll play San Jose, and we know the schedule and the rhythm the rest of the week, travel and all that. We also know the next day, depending on who wins, if San Jose doesn't win, that we'll play either Houston or KC, and we know the schedule and the scenarios for that and the travel for that as well. So the guys are well aware of everything right now. All they need to be focused on is us. And we had a good training session today, and the guys are buzzing. They were a bit edgy today. It was good. They were fighting, and that's what you want.
And I saw that Audi today still was not in training. Can you give us any sort of idea of where he's at heading into this series?
I wish I could. I don't know. I was told he was going to be in training this week a bit. So we'll see, obviously, as the week goes on. But wasn't in training today. So, tomorrow, who knows? But no firm update on when he'll be in or if he'll be in this game.
And this might be more of a question for the off season then, but in terms of just the training staff and the injury rehab, are you a bit concerned that you now have yet another player whose timeline is changing, seems to keep getting extended?
I think, as far as the timelines, that specific thing, it's tough, with soft tissue injuries, because there's no concrete, always black and white timeline that you follow. A lot of it's the player's recovery and how he progresses, and, players progress at different stages. But I think the big thing, and I've said it, is the amount of re-injuries that have occurred. You're always going to have injuries. Everybody does in this league because of the travel and The compacted windows and the climate changes and those things. So you're going to have injuries, but the re-injuries shouldn't occur. And we've had far too many of those. So, yeah, of course, at the end of the year, whether we win it all or, lose in the next round, we're going to evaluate everything, irrespective of how we finish, like we always do. There's always things to get better. Even though we've had a very good year to this point, we will still reflect and evaluate every aspect of the club and looking to get better.
Coach, Jamie just asked you about the challenge of having Fanedo out. You've had some other key decisions and challenges at other positions, challenges that at least we can see from the outside. You had to make a call on a goalkeeper. You've had to find out a lot about your fullback core this year, balancing the midfield when David has been out. Looking back on that, what would you say was your most significant decision/challenge that you had to make during the season?
Yeah, good question. I think a lot of those decisions on the outside looking in become real challenging decisions. For me, they're oftentimes not that challenging because on the inside, I'm seeing a lot of things that you guys aren't. I'm around these guys every single day. I see every training, obviously. I'm really close to, every game and the performances they have in each game, and really close to the chemistry of the team and try to have a really good, pulse on that. So that fingertip feel on these decisions, they're not, maybe as tough as you might think, because I'm close to those decisions on a daily basis and try to have a really good, like I said, pulse on everything. So I go with the feel. It's part evidence, what I know, and a lot of the decisions have been, pretty easy because, like Alvis one's a good one. But that one came out of the blue. Zarek had been starting a lot of games and playing well, and the team been playing well. So you might think, wow, it's crazy to drop Zarek and put Alvis in. For me, I just saw it. I saw Alvis, the way he was training, and just had a sense of it. So I really try to just pay attention every day and keep my eyes and ears peeled and open, and I think that helps me sometimes make those type of decisions. It's fun to have options as well. I think that's the thing this year. We've had a lot of good options, and on these decisions, a lot of times too, you can't make a wrong one. No matter who you put in, you're going to have a good guy that's pretty good. Where, last year I thought, there were some decisions that you probably knew no matter what you did, it was going to be the wrong one. And you saw that in the results. So it's a good team and great depth, and that's a credit to the off-season work that Gavin, myself, Ned did to rebuild our depth like it was in 2015.
I think you might have alluded to this answer a bit when you talked to Jamie about how you managed the grind of the season. But coming off the second time in your professional coaching career where you finished top of the regular season table, I was hoping you can compare where you are professionally as a coach now and what you know and how knowledgeable you are relative to the competition league to where you felt you were in 2013.
Yeah, I'm proud of the fact that, in my 5 years, twice we've finished top of the West at the end of a 34-game season in a very difficult conference. You saw this year, Dallas didn't make the playoffs, and so you can't take it for granted how difficult it is in this league to make the playoffs even. But to finish the top of the West twice, and then obviously win MLS Cup, and win the West in the tournament that year. Not gonna lie, I'm proud of that. I'm ticked off still that we missed the playoffs twice by a point and 2 points. We cut it too close in terms of peaking the team, and I learned from those years, got better from those years as well. But 3 years, the 3 years that were successful were very successful, and I'm proud of that. As far as where, stack up with competition, I don't think that way, but ultimately I've been with this club 5 years, in this league 5 years, and think we've proven that we know how to win, and I'm proud of that.
You mentioned how close you were to making the playoffs those other 2 years, and I think that's what stuck out about Sunday is that it was the same opponent as a year ago. The stakes were a lot different, but you wanted to win both of those games, and the team's performance was 180 degrees different.
Yeah.
Now that you've had a couple of days to reflect on it, do you feel a certain sense of vindication that you can put the ghosts of not only last season, but particularly the game at BC Place behind you, behind the team?
I think what's important is to be able to make corrections. I think where clubs and coaches fall short is they get stubborn and they think that what worked last year is going to work again this year, and then when they don't succeed, they keep doing the same thing. And we've proven we can reflect and correct and adjust, and that's key. That's real key in long-term sustainment in this league. Is you have your core philosophies in building rosters and playing the game the way you think the game needs to be played, figuring out how to win in this league, all those things, man manager. You have your core philosophies, but when things don't work, you gotta be willing to change and be open-minded and reflect on that and recognize it and not be stubborn and staying ahead of those things. So I look at the down years that we've had, call them down years. It's nothing like some teams' down years. Let's be honest. Let's be right about that. We missed it by a point and 2 points. So those feel like failures. Those aren't completely down years where you're, the wheels are falling off like some clubs and you're bottom of the table. And that happens. That happens. It happened this year to some clubs that were very successful. That didn't happen to us. I think that's why we bounced right back too. We weren't far off it, but I also think we bounced back because we reflected the right way and made adjustments, made changes, and went back to work. And we'll do the same this year. We're not going to rest on our laurels no matter how this ends. Our hope is that we're going to play 5 more games and win a cup. But no matter what, we're gonna keep improving, and you have to in this league. It's not a forgiving league if you don't keep improving. And I think that's important. What worked last year, 2 years ago, changes quickly. The best stadium 10 years ago is the worst now. Those are things that you have to think about. And we do always as a club.
And Coach, the last one from me, regarding playoff format. Jamie asked you a little bit about this, but Jesse Marsh has been very open about the fact that his experience at the top of the East, he felt maybe hurt his team because you have that extra time off, and much like your team in 2015, sometimes you're going to give a good team a chance to maintain their momentum. Just irrespective of where you are right now, do you have any thoughts on the current playoff format and whether it does kind of serve as a reverse incentive for certain teams?
Yeah. I think if you're, again, going to fight for 34 games to get an advantage, there certainly needs to be an advantage given. That's my biggest 2 cents. We obviously won the cup, playing the knockout. We made that work. I'm real happy that we're not playing the knockout because there's no guarantee you win the knockout, first of all. Second of all, you have to play on a shorter rest. What I don't love this year is the rest isn't as, it's not a rest, really, when you look at it, I remember when we played the knockout on I think it was a Thursday, and then turned around and had to play a game again on a Sunday in the first leg. This year it's a Wednesday or Thursday, and then it's a Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. So I don't know how much of an advantage as far as rest that is. You get the advantage of not having to play a game. You enter right into the conference semifinals. Obviously, we enter into the round where there's only 8 teams, so that's good. We only need to get past 3 teams. That's good. But the rest, isn't what it needs to be. So how much of an advantage is it to fight for those 34 games to get, no advantage? I think those are things that we have to think about. The right format, the right weighing of the 34-game season, and how much getting the 1 seed really means and impacts your chances. If you've proven you're the best team over 34 games in your conference, how much advantage should you be given? Is it enough? Those are things we need to, I think, evaluate. I do like the format of some teams getting a bye. I like the format of some teams having to play a knockout. I like the home field advantage format. I like the MLS Cup being played at the highest seed. I like the double legs. So there's a lot that I do like in it. But I just think, again, is there enough of an advantage for the team that wins the West? I'm not sure.
Along those lines, how much do you factor in away goals when you go wherever you go for that first game?
Yeah, I mean, we had a long meeting today, and we talked about all this stuff. I mean, it's time to start to think about, okay, 5 games, what's that mean, and what do we need to do? And we'll take each series as it comes, but you got the 2 legs, and we have a lot of experience playing in 2 legs, being in Champions League, and even though it didn't end well, we did pretty well in those legs and series, and obviously in both the years we were in the playoffs, we did very well. So we tend to do well in the 2-leg series. There's a bit of a method to it, so it's important to be ahead of that. I think without showing your cards, I mean, going on the road with that away goal, if you can get a goal, that's like 2 goals. And we're a team that we score goals. So I don't think you'll see us going and sitting back on the road. And I think for the opponent in that first leg being at home, having a team that's attacking them, knowing that if they get a goal, that's a huge swing. I think personally that's the best way to approach it.
Obviously, there's the advantage of having the second leg, the same leg at home. Some people have suggested over the years that there might be an advantage of playing the first leg at home just because the other team has to travel.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about the way that works?
I think it's close. Obviously there are arguments for both. At one point I remember, I think it was my second year, there was talk about letting the higher seed decide. But I think the biggest advantage of having the second leg at home is if it goes to extra time, you get the extra minutes, and also when you know what you need to do and you need that push, you're on your home pitch. But there's arguments for both. Obviously, getting off to a good start in the series really helps. But I'm confident we'll get off to a good start. In that first leg, we'll be smart with how we approach it. But we're going to go in there trying to get goals. And we'll get goals the right way. We're not going to be all opened up or naive, but I think the best thing to do is go and get goals in that first leg. Get at least a goal, and a 1-1 draw or a 2-1 win. That'll set up good things for you the next leg.
Okay.
When you look at this season, obviously you guys had the great start, maybe a little bit of a lull in the summer, and then you finished really well. Do you kind of just point mostly to the injuries being the big difference, or are there other factors from what you saw with what's going on with the guys maybe that we haven't that were critical and maybe flipping the season in different points?
I think there's a few things. Obviously, it depends a little bit on the year and the way the schedule shakes out, and like you said with the injuries. But in this particular year, I thought it was a combination of things. I think there's a natural mid-season dog day slump that everybody a little bit deals with. So that's a factor psychologically. You don't maybe see that light at the end of the tunnel. We had, when you look at our schedule, a lot of really compacted windows. We had guys gone as well on international duty a lot in the summer, and we had a lot of guys injured. So we had that perfect storm, which is why I think our form dipped a little bit. We still got a few points, and we stayed in the race, and we had some big results. But again, I think the reason we're flying on the radar a little bit in terms of the soccer we're playing is, during that time, we weren't able to execute and play in a dominant way like we are now. Start of the year, end of the year, for me, it's undeniable if you're watching the games, which I'm not sure a lot of these guys that are analyzing this stuff really watch all the games. I can't imagine that they can. It's a lot of games to watch. But if you're watching, you know, all the games, we're playing some good football right now. And I think in the summer there were times where we weren't.
And just last thing I wanted to ask is just how well positioned do you feel like the team is? In 2015, you guys were maybe the underdogs coming up, just playing the best soccer then this year. But this year you have been around above the red line the whole year, are playing your best soccer, finished first in the West. How well positioned is this team right now to make a real run?
Yeah, I think we're well positioned. Obviously, we showed after 34 games that we're the best team in the West, and that says it all. We've shown we can score goals. We gave up more goals than I would have liked this year, but recently not as much. That's been much improved. So I think we've shown a lot of balance, both sides of the ball in terms of how we're playing. We've shown we can close out games mentally. So I think we're well positioned. This team also is confident, and don't forget, we have a good core here that won an MLS Cup already. So there are 5-6 guys in the starting lineup right now that have already won an MLS Cup. So you talk about experience, don't sleep on that.